So it's important to understand your P&L or your income statement, that you're going to have your revenue on the top. You're going to have all of the expenses in the middle that are going to be deductions for your business. And then the bottom line is the taxable income. So that's another incentive as to why we want to track things for our business, because that reduces essentially the dollar amount that is going to be taxed.
This episode is sponsored by TherapyNotes, therapynotes.com. Be sure and check them out, and be sure and use the promo code Gordon, Gordon, and you can try them out for 2 months for free. Over 15 years ago, when I started my private practice, I had to learn a lot, and most of it the hard way, and I don't think you need to do the same. Hi, I'm Gordon Brewer, a licensed psychotherapist, and welcome to the Practice of Therapy podcast, part of the Psychcraft network of podcasts. Join me in this journey of discovery as we have conversations with other leaders and professionals in both the mental and allied health fields. Join us as we explore both the business and clinical sides of running a private practice. Hello, friends. Welcome to the podcast. This is episode number 390 of the Practice of Therapy podcast, and I'm Gordon, and so glad you've joined me for this particular episode. Really looking forward to you hearing from Andrea Rotondo, and we're going to talk about money and finances and things that you can do to make it not so scary for you. You know, I know one of the things that people hear from me a lot is just the importance of knowing your numbers and really understanding the financial side of running your practice. And so Andrea and I kind of dive into this and just helping you maybe find some ways that don't seem quite so scary in thinking about your numbers. And so it's a good conversation to have. So before we get to that, though, one of the things I'd love for you to do is go over to the website, practiceoftherapy.com. And if you're interested in working with me and doing some consulting, that is something that I'm doing. And one of the things that I'm doing this year is really focusing in on doing just individual consulting with people and really helping them do a deep dive into the things that maybe you're struggling with in your practice. One particular area is moving from solo practice to group practice, and that's something I help people with. Also, just as we talk about in this episode, really understanding your numbers better, and also just thinking about the different ways in which you can maybe make your systems and processes within your practice run a little smoother. So if you'll go to practiceoftherapy.com and just click on the link there that says coaching and consulting, and you can find out more about my services and offering that. And also, before we get to my conversation with Andrea, look for you to hear from one of the members of the Psychcraft network, along with some words from our sponsor, TherapyNotes.
Hi there, I'm Julie Harris. I'm an accountant, and I'm the host of the Therapy for Your Money podcast. In the podcast, we talk about all things money and finance, specifically for therapists in private practice. You see, my accounting firm, Green Oak Accounting, specializes in working with therapists in private practice. That's all we do at this point. And over the years, we've learned so many tips and tricks for how to make the financial side of private practice work better. After all, we've seen under the hood of hundreds and hundreds of private practices. So in the podcast, I share lots of financial tools and tips and mindset shifts to help you have a profitable private practice. Therapy for Your Money is part of the Psychcraft network of podcasts, a network of independent podcasters just like me. So head over to therapyforyourmoney.com to hear episodes on topics like growing your practice, making more money without necessarily working harder, weathering the ups and downs of a practice, and so much more. Come join me at therapyforyourmoney.com.
Rachel here with a quick shout out to TherapyNotes, the EHR that Gordon uses and loves for running his group practice. If you've ever been looking for a solid, all-in-one platform to manage your notes, scheduling, billing, and even secure client messaging, this is it. Gordon's been using TherapyNotes for years, and it's honestly made a huge difference in how smooth things run behind the scenes. He's always saying how it saves him time and keeps everything organized, and as a practice owner, that's huge. And get this, they've just rolled out Therapy Fuel, which is an amazing suite of AI tools that help write your notes faster. You can generate progress notes from session summaries or even from transcriptions. You can also create contact notes straight from secure messages and automatically summarize client history forms. Basically, it's like having a little documentation assistant built right in. Plus, TherapyNotes is always adding new features like automated payments, secondary insurance billing, and a growing library of outcome measures. And if you ever get stuck, their customer service is phenomenal. Seriously, you can call or email 24/7 and talk to someone who actually knows what they're doing. So, if you've ever been thinking about switching or just getting started, now's a great time. Head over to therapynotes.com, click Start My Free Trial, and use the promo code GORDON to get 2 months free. All right, back to the show.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome again to the podcast. And I'm really happy for you to get to know today Andrea Rotondo. Welcome, Andrea.
Hi, Gordon. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, and so today we're going to be talking about bookkeeping and a little more about how we can maybe make that not so scary for people and just thinking about our numbers and all of that sort of thing. But Andrea, as I start with everyone, tell folks more about yourself and how you've landed where you've landed.
Yes, I love to share that story. So I'll give you the really summarized version of that. Many years ago, my plan was to actually be like one of you guys, the listeners, a therapist. And after a few changes here and there and life happens, I shift that direction into accounting and bookkeeping and all sorts of things related to money. And I knew before I even launched my business almost 5 years ago that I wanted to serve this community in a way. It felt like I owed that to the space and to the people. And of course, nobody was telling me that, but it was this internal pressure of I want to give back to this. Mm-hmm. So I decided that this was going to be my clients that I wanted to serve, therapy practice owners.
Yes. Well, I'm so glad you're here, and I think this is going to be an interesting conversation. So I guess to start out with, when you think about maybe the difficulty that you've learned that therapists have with bookkeeping and kind of the scary nature of it, what comes to mind for you? And how can we make it simpler?
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand where we are and acknowledge the fact that, well, if I feel nervous or if I feel scared, it's probably because, and at least in my clients, a lot of them come without that experience of business, for example, or business school or classes regarding accounting. There's not a lot of experience when it comes to that. So launching your own practice feels very overwhelming when it comes to the finances, because again, there's not a lot of experience in that area. But unfortunately, to run a business, you do need to pay attention to the finances. You can't ignore that, at least not forever, right? We do that, especially in the beginning. We kind of like put it off, but then there's going to be a point where you're going to have to come face to face with that. And if you let that time pass by for longer and longer, then that's going to become even bigger and scarier in a way, because you're not going to be looking at things when they're still, in the baby steps. We're adjusting. It's already a grown business. You're making money. You might have even people in your team, and starting to look at your numbers in that area, in that moment in your business, feels a lot bigger. So what I like to do, or my approach, is to break it down rather than looking at this really impressive goal of being almost a professional in the finance world. And I can do this, and I'll show you all the certificates that I've done so that I can tell myself and others that I'm good at finances. I like to break it down into much smaller tasks and much smaller, maybe even mini projects. And then little by little, as you know, we do one thing and then we get a little bit good at it, just a little bit. And then we show up again and then we start to get better at that. And then suddenly you have done this for so long, and that's so long, it will look differently for everybody. It could be a week, it could be a month, it could be a year. So depending on how you approach it and how often you show up and how often you try new things, and you might make mistakes and then show up and you do it again and again, then you start to realize this doesn't really feel that scary anymore. And I think that is in that journey, but also in that moment of showing up, that things don't feel so scary, that you actually give yourself the space and the permission in a way to, okay, now that I feel better here, let me pull this report and I'm going to try to see what it's telling me, or I'm going to have a conversation with my bookkeeper or my accountant, and I'm going to ask them these questions. So isn't that journey of breaking things down a little bit smaller to make it easier for yourself, first initially to show up and then to get a little bit deeper with the numbers, that you realize you can do this. You don't have to be a professional and you know, if I have a degree in accounting or anything like that, you can literally just do it.
Right. Yeah. And people have heard from me all the time over the years, just the importance of knowing your numbers and keeping a pulse on the finances, because I've heard so many stories of where people have really kind of gotten themselves into the weeds with their, with their accounting or their bookkeeping, and end up at the end of the year with a huge tax bill that they weren't expecting, and all of those kinds of things, which are, it's so important. So, so kind of walk us through kind of your method of kind of helping people break things down and looking at their numbers and understanding all of that.
Yeah, one of the things that I really enjoy doing is creating that space to just talk. And I think a lot of therapists kind of are looking for that in their accounting professional, but maybe they don't find it often. And it could be just my personality. It could be because I like and understand the psychology of it, but I like to intentionally create my conversations and the way that I show up and kind of the plan that I put together for my clients for them to show up and be comfortable. So I kind of take two different components and I put them together. One is structure. I think it's important to have structure, especially in accounting, right? We want to have things organized and placed. We want to know where to put things together. But when you're coming without that experience, and many of my clients tell me, I don't even know what I don't know. Like I just literally, I don't have anything in place. For saying that out loud it takes a lot of courage, especially as a business owner. So instead of taking the approach of, I can't believe you, I can't believe you don't have this in place. How come you have a business? It's okay. So let me show you the structure. I'm going to walk you through it and I'm going to ask you questions and I'm going to kind of prompt you. Today, we're going to work on this. Tomorrow, we're going to work on that. Then we're going to work on this. But then at the same time, the other component is that people is what we're working with. We're not just machines. I'm not just this computer behind the screen, and I'm not expecting you to be either. So because we're both wanting to take ownership of the situation, we want to get better at what we're doing. I want that for you. Then I create that space for you to be human. And if you make mistakes, it's okay. And if you have a question, I'm here to answer it. And I take that into consideration as well in the pace, because for some people, it might be extremely difficult. They might get really anxious I remember one of my clients sharing the very beginning, I don't want to have conversations that are longer than 20 minutes or 30 minutes, because usually we'll book 1 hour meetings. So she was open to tell me, let's just do 30 minutes. So I keep that in mind, and I have the structure that we're going to implement. And of course, every step is very intentional in what we're doing and what we want to achieve, having clarity with this is why this is important and why this matters to you and to your goals. But then also not just like machines, this. We're going to have a conversation, talk about it. So that structure kind of serves as guardrails. Like we have a clear vision because we talked about it. We know what you want because we talked about it. So a lot of conversation, we know where you are because we talked about it. And also we have your numbers. So that's available to us. And then now bringing in the human part together, we walk through that together. So that's kind of both components that I put together when I work with my clients.
Right. Yeah. So when you mention the structure, tell us more about how you like to structure things for people and what that looks like.
Yeah, that will depend, Gordon, on their practice. So if somebody is new and their goal, at least for the, foreseeable future, that's their plan, they're going to stay together. They might have a different tech stack. That's somebody that has a group practice and maybe has a couple of offices or, a team of W-2 employees. So part of my onboarding process is just to have, again, that conversation to understand what they're using and how they're using it and for what purpose. Because again, when we come at it, not really understanding or knowing, we start grabbing resources from a lot of different people. And then we have this big list of, I have the spreadsheet over here and I have this app over here, but that one is not really fully complete. So then I'm also going to have this other one. And then I also have my personal app. So my personal finances app. So in the beginning, we kind of assess, okay, tell me what you have. And then in that process, we start, if needed, we start to make changes and simplifying it. So for your bookkeeping itself, we'll just stick to one system where we don't need extra spreadsheets and things like that to track your income and your revenue. So we'll stick to one. Usually QuickBooks Online is the most common one, but there are other ones that do the same thing, right? And again, going back to where you are and where you want to go, maybe a free software could be a great fit if you're just a solo clinician and that's your goal. But if you have a group practice, I wouldn't suggest that. For example, I would suggest something that has a little bit more features to them. And then although billing and accounting has to be completely separate when it comes to a private practice because of HIPAA compliance.
Right.
And that falls under the category of billing, not really accounting or bookkeeping. I take that as part of your picture because I want to make sure that you're using that correctly, or that you're not correctly because I don't coach you on that, but you're using it. That's my goal with that. I want you to charge all of your payments from your clients through your EHR, nothing that will come through the banking in the terms of like, Zelle or PayPal transactions or things like that. Everything will go through your EHR. And then we look at how are you doing with or how often are you looking at your financial report? So we kind of go through the course of the financial cycle and also looking at your calendar. So we know that every quarter we have to pay taxes, and the quarters from the IRS are a little bit different. So that comes to a surprise too. Okay, so we understand this is what you're doing. We have everything together. We're connecting all of your accounts, your credit cards, and all of that. We look at how you are receiving your payments. Is there anything that we can do to improve that? Okay, now we're going to look at the area of taxes. Are you prepared? Do you feel like you're prepared? Do you have surprise tax bills like you mentioned in the beginning? Why is that? So then usually that falls under the stage of looking at your financial reports and making informed decisions based on that. So based on all of that, we start using apps. And in my case, I use another app like a secure client portal to ask questions and share documents. So if you're working with a bookkeeper or an accountant, for example, I would really encourage you to never email anything. Always try, even if your accountant doesn't have a portal and you are using QuickBooks, you can actually share documents through QuickBooks so that you're not emailing anything. So little things like that. But when it comes to the actual accounting, it'll be just in one place. And then I'm also a certified Profit First professional. So another app that we can incorporate is a Profit First app where we, again, connect your bank and we look at percentages and things, but that'll be more of after the fact of the bookkeeping to get a little bit more detail in cash flow management and all of that. But like we said in the beginning, I like to keep things simplified. If there's something that I can do to remove, whether it's an email or a spreadsheet or something that'll be another thing on your list, that'll be my goal, to make things simple, but also the most beneficial for you.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
E-commerce business owners know the best way to run a successful business is to keep their customers happy. You build trust with your customers one package at a time. That's why smart retailers use ShipStation. ShipStation helps you run the smoothest order fulfillment process possible and cut costs, not corners. ShipStation streamlines all your orders from everywhere you sell into one easy-to-use dashboard, prints shipping labels, manages returns, and tracks inventory. You can even automate repetitive tasks so your team makes fewer errors. Plus, they get you the lowest possible carrier rates. You'll save up to 88% off UPS, USPS, and DHL Express, and up to 90% off FedEx rates. When shoppers choose to buy your products, turn them into loyal customers with cheaper, faster, and better shipping. Go to ShipStation.com/program to sign up for your free trial. There's no credit card or contract required, and you can cancel anytime. That's ShipStation.com/program.
Right. Yeah, it's I've learned kind of the hard way over the years trying to when I've created these big, different, complicated ways of tracking stuff, keeping it simple is you can end up doubling your work if you're not careful.
Right. And it's not that they're not helpful, because of course there is going to be information that you can pull from them, but like you said, what is the real benefit and what is your input? And also you have to learn as you go, and as you're building your business, you're going to start to realize that there's things that maybe you never knew or expected that you would like. So if working and creating or getting new resources and spreadsheets actually make you feel like it's actually beneficial to you and it's helping you make decisions and you don't dread it and it doesn't give you anxiety and you're not missing out on weekends with your family because you're working on that, then that sounds like a great fit. But for many other therapists, working on all of those things feels terrible.
Yeah.
All the worst things ever just all combined in one thing. So if that is the case, then why are we going to make it harder for ourselves to make it happen? It doesn't have to be that way.
Right. And you make a really good point, Andrea. I think you have to really kind of look at, the stuff you enjoy doing and also versus the stuff that you dread doing. I'm one of those people where I enjoy messing around with QuickBooks and looking at the numbers. And so I keep that on my plate, but I would say if I didn't enjoy it and it was confusing to me and all of that sort of thing, I would probably want to outsource that and have somebody else do it.
Right, exactly. Because we got to remember, why are we doing this? If the goal, usually the first goal, right? It's just going to be compliance. If you have a business, we got to show our numbers to the IRS at the end of every year. We already know that. The thing is, as business owners, again, we have to, like you mentioned, you have to know your numbers. And that doesn't just magically happen.
Right.
We just don't show up on the screen and things are explained in a way that we understand them, right? It's not just the system itself, but it's also our input and how much time we spend looking at it and asking different questions and thinking about what if or now what and all of those things. So if you want your goal to be, I just want to have a spreadsheet to give it to my accountant, then you build it that way for that. I think you're going to be missing out on so much throughout the whole year. And it's going to be a little bit harder to run your business that way. But if that is your goal, then a simple spreadsheet will do. But if your goal is to, I want to understand this, I want to prepare for this, retirement, employees, payroll, summer, vacations, all of that, then I want to prepare and have all of my little components in my financial systems so that I can get that information, because we're not doing all of the tracking just for fun, right? It's for the benefit and the information that gives us.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I think too is, and you might want to speak to this a little bit as part of when we're bookkeeping and tracking our numbers and everything, is looking at, what is the why behind that. And I think, one why is that we do have to, for those of us in the United States, we do have to pay our taxes, and self-employment tax is much different than if you're employed by somebody. And there's a few more layers to it as far as, being able to keep up with that. And like you said, pay those quarterly tax payments and that kind of thing. But also looking at, what is it that you want for yourself in terms of your own financial goals, saving for retirement, what do you need to live day in and day out? What sort of standard of living do you want to hold for yourself? And also, just all of the things that everybody does every single day as far as, buying groceries and paying rent or mortgages and, all of those kinds of things. You've got to know what that number is that you need each month.
Right. And it's really interesting coming from not having that in place, not tracking that in place, to now you have a business and you kind of have to, right? And then I see it as this really great opportunity to a new door opens to, wow, like exactly what you said. How much do I need to pay myself? And if you don't have those numbers clear on your personal finances, then it's kind of a forced invitation to look at that, because you have to know how much you need to make every month in order for you to pay yourself what you need in order to then pay your personal bills. So it's kind of this journey or this cycle of, I need to know what's going on in my personal, have that very clear. And then because of that, I can work kind of like backwards of how many clients I need to have and see every week. What about summer? How can I prepare for that? What about vacations, kids' birthday parties, if you have kids, and all the birthday parties and the gifts and all of that? I think it's a budget in itself. And retirement. And if what about college for my kids, paying my school debt, like all of these things, when you put it into practice and on the practical side of things, are going to come from your profit. So it's important to understand your P&L or your income statement, that you're going to have your revenue on the top. You're going to have all of the expenses in the middle that are going to be deductions for your business. And then the bottom line is the taxable income. So that's another incentive as to why we want to track things for our business, because that reduces essentially the dollar amount that is going to be taxed. But from there, usually the question is, well, I see my profit and loss and I see that this profit number is, whatever, 20,000, but I don't have that in my bank. How come? Like, where did that money go? So it's from that amount that if you are not on payroll in your practice, you're going to pay yourself from that. So that takes, it's being taken out from that chunk. And then savings, we want to save money. So we take that from there. We want to save for taxes. I encourage all of my clients, save money for taxes as you go. We don't want to freak out at the end of every quarter, like, oh my gosh, I have to borrow from here. We're going to do it as we go. It's built into the system. So we take that from the bottom line and we're going to save for other little purposes here and there. And now I understand, that is exactly where the money went. If you have debt for the business, that is where we're going to take that from. So that one number, it's telling you just one piece, like one area of the business, one story, but there's more chapters to it. And the goal is to put all of them together so that you can not only understand how good you have been at managing the cash of your business, but also a clear, in a way or method as to where I need to get better, or if I want to do this and I want to have all of these goals over here. Now I'm more clear as to this is where I'm at. This is where I want to go. I can start filling in the steps rather than kind of being lost now and lost in the future. We are just working.
Right. Yeah. And one thing you had mentioned was profit first, and I'm a big fan of profit first. And I think everybody in business should read Mike Michalowicz's book, but also in our space, Julie Harris wrote a book, Profit First for Therapists, and she really breaks it down very specifically for therapists. And so, quick plug for those two books. And
I know, I love them. I have them right here on my table.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. So, well, Andrea, I've got to be mindful of our time, and I'm so glad we had this conversation. Tell folks how they can get in touch with you and ways in which they can work with you and how you can help them.
Thank you so much, Gordon. Yes, you can reach me in two places mainly. If you're hanging out on LinkedIn, you can find me there. Just look up my name, Andrea Rotondo. And my website is liquidsensebookkeeping.com, cents as in coins. You can find my services there. You can find a couple of resources, some free ones, some other resources that I have met throughout the years of working with therapists that I think are really, really helpful. So those will be there, as well as a way to contact me directly. So you can find my email there. If you have any questions or if you want to jump on a coffee chat with me, I'm happy to meet you as well.
Awesome. And we'll have links in the show notes and the show summary for people to access that easily. But Andrea, so glad to have you on the podcast, and hope we'll have another conversation here soon.
Thank you so much, Gordon. It was great to be here.
Well, again, a big thanks to Andrea for being on the podcast. And be sure and check out her things at liquidsensebookkeeping.com. And you'll find links here in the show notes and the show summaries to access that easily. And also a big thanks to TherapyNotes for sponsoring the podcast. They are the leading electronic health record system for mental health providers. They're who I use in my practice and absolutely couldn't work without them. And one of the things about them is that they're constantly updating and adding new features, and their support is really second to none. And so one of the features that they're doing now that I'm really taking advantage of for the clients that I see is the AI feature, the AI capabilities in helping you quickly write progress notes or session notes. And so it's just a big game changer in terms of saving time and just being able to do things quickly and more efficiently. So be sure and check them out. Go to practiceoftherapy.com/TherapyNotes. And if you'll use that promo code, just Gordon, Gordon, you can try them out for 2 months for free. And so be sure and check it out. And looking forward to some other great episodes coming up. And it's hard to believe that we're at 390 episodes, and we've got some big things coming up for our 400th episode to kind of celebrate, and also just a little heads up. We're going to be changing some things up with the podcast. So we've got that to look forward to. So take care, folks. Glad you've joined us. Do take time to follow us or subscribe to the podcast wherever you might be listening to it. And we'll be back with you next week. You've been listening to the Practice of Therapy podcast with Gordon Brewer, part of the PsychCraft network of podcasts. You can find out more about the other great podcasts in the network by visiting psychcraftnetwork.com. And if you haven't done so already, please visit us at practiceoftherapy.com and get your free private practice startup guide, along with a lot of other great resources and webinars and free things just by visiting. Also, be sure to follow us wherever you might be listening to your podcasts. This podcast is intended to be educational in purpose and is not intended to give legal, accounting, or counseling advice. If you need a professional, find the right person for that.
Grilling season is here, and Acme is ready. From the city to the shore, Acme has everything you need for a perfect summer. From convenient fresh-cut fruits and vegetables to ready-made party trays and desserts, Acme simplifies your grocery shopping experience so you can save time and enjoy every minute of summer. Order for pickup and let Acme do the shopping for you. We'll carefully select, bag your order, even pick up your prescriptions from our pharmacy and bring it all right to your car. Make shopping a breeze and download the Acme app today. Acme, the official supermarket of the Philadelphia Eagles.